Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so today we are gonna be revising our tier list and there haven't been too many changes made. I did make two perhaps somewhat controversial in the last minute, but before we go any further, I must remind you guys that this list is a mixture of my personal view of the current game relevance and trends, and obviously my personal opinions as well. It's impossible to be completely impartial without actual data to break down. Please do not use this list as a point of argument, but more as a food for thought. Each summoner has different needs and preferences that far outweigh the importance of this list. This list is primarily offensively focused, so therefore, if you need to rank up a good defender for Alliance War or for Battlegrounds, this list does not reflect that. And also in general, please rank up champions that will help you get where you are trying to go, and do not blindly follow any of these lists. If you need champions that will help you with AQ to do them quicker and easier, rank up those champions. If you need champions for Battlegrounds metas, rank up those champions. If you need champions for Alliance War defense or offense, rank up those champions. All that being said, this list features only champions that are available as 6 stars. That means we do not have Quake and Magic and Ultron Classic in this list. All that said, as we can see, we have top of the game meta, frequently useful, useful, occasionally useful, and useless, borderline unplayable / insignificant tier, which is basically a tier of shame. A tier where most of these champions could disappear from the game and most people wouldn't mind or notice. Like how long it would take you if Beast just disappeared. Would you notice? I don't think I would, for a while anyways, unless somebody told me. Anyways, all the other tiers, however, champions definitely have their uses. I have some of my favorite champions to play in occasionally useful tier, like Carnage, for instance. Incredibly fun champion, can do a ton of damage, just not the best. There's no single area of the game where he really shines. Similar to Proxima. Proxima can do some crazy good things, but he just doesn't have a home or a purpose in the game. Just because they are in the occasionally useful tier, however, doesn't mean that you shouldn't like those champions, or if you really like them, then it doesn't mean that you shouldn't rank them up. And the tier names are self-explanatory. We have occasionally useful, which means there will be times when these champions are good, but in general, they're not necessarily go-to champions. Useful champions are the type of champions that can do very well relatively frequently. We have some demotions to this tier as well that I'm going to cover in a moment. Frequently useful are the champions that you typically focus on after you have done up your primary rank ups, basically. These are, the style choices for more specific niche situations, and so on and so forth. Meta is, just as it's short for, most effective tactics available, which basically means the champions that you do see in majority of the game modes doing very, very well. These are the champions that you typically see, people rank up very frequently in most of the top-end rosters. And top of the game is the best of the best, the creme de la creme, the, rulers of their respective classes, basically, where it's like a no-brainer situation. You get that champion, you should rank up that champion. And there are 2 new champions that I currently put to top of the game. It is on provisional basis, but the 2 changes to that is Future Ant-Man. I do think Future Ant-Man is incredibly powerful, and he's posing a legitimate question, whether you want to rank up like Future Ant-Man or Warlock or Nimrod or something else. Because there are situations where Future Ant-Man will, perform better. Keep in mind that Future Ant-Man is getting a balancing update where he will be stronger than he is currently in the game as well. So that's definitely going to help him. And we'll see if he manages to remain there, because majority of the champions up here have been there for a very, very long time. And, Absorbing Man is the only other 2023 champion, and most of these champions are have been there again for a long, long time. And another addition is Kate Bishop, because I do think Kate Bishop has pretty much proved herself. She is one of the better skilled champions, and I think she's a solid 4th skilled champion. I do think that, the list goes pretty much Kingpin, Nick Fury, Valkyrie, Kate Bishop. And I don't think it's overly controversial to put her at the top of the game, because she does, perform extremely well with her passive Cold Snap, her playstyle ability to bypass, miss, and evade via that Cold Snap. Alternate means of doing damage, be that through drops, be that through increased crit rates and crit damage. So yeah, I think Kate is fairly solidly placing herself at the top of the game. Who knows, maybe her popularity will drop, but for now, I'm going to put her there. Right, any meaningful changes here? There are two more champions that I'm kind of considering of maybe moving to the top of the game list, which is Juggernaut, because Juggernaut has been just insane. Juggernaut is like one of the best also questing champions for like monthly event quests or for a bunch of study content stuff. I have been using Juggernaut in some of the AQ stuff, casual side events as well. Obviously, one of, in my opinion, top 5 BG attacker overall. And yeah, just a beast at what he does. And the other champion is Hulk. I do see Hulk everywhere all the time, and everyone's terrified of Hulk because of his stun loops. He can do some very silly and stupid fights, and that crazy damage output, it's a lot. So those are the champions that are at the moment closest to moving to the top of the game list, in my opinion. Other than that, I don't think there are any major changes here. I'm still keeping Cassie in the meta tier. I do think she is perfectly fine there. And when it comes to rest of the classes, yeah, I still think America Chavez deserves to be up there as well. And Adam Warlock, that's the one that I'm quite uncertain about. Maybe he's going to get dragged down to frequently useful tier, but we'll see soon enough, because more people will have Adam Warlock in a couple of weeks when he enters featured 6-star Hero Crystal, and then, you know, he's going to get his chance to shine. When it comes to frequently useful list, Danny Moonstar, still there. I think Danny is cool. I have her at rank 5. I think she can do some cool things. I would like few things tuned for her. I do think some of her timers are not quite good enough in terms of duration on the like energy vulnerability and stuff, and a few other things. But overall, I do like the champion. I did drag down Spider-Man Supreme here. He definitely hasn't been as visible, as noticeable in the last month or so. He kind of jumped up when everybody used him, and then he jumped down a bit, in my opinion. Silk as a new champion, he's here. I do have quite high expectations of Silk, I'm not gonna lie. I do have a 6-star rank 4. I grinded for her in Arena, and I like her a lot. I will not place her immediately in meta tier just because it's not something that I do. I do typically, you know, want to see her actual impact on the game. So I do want to see, you know, her being used in more content, in more battlegrounds. When Alliance Wars come back, I want to see how she does in Alliance Wars, whether she is one of those champions that is getting attention. And then perhaps we can move her up to the meta tier. But I do think there is a ton of potential, and I do like and enjoy her as a champion myself, more than I thought I would, to be honest. And I'm very glad that you do not necessarily need to go for the level 3s with Silk. Baron Zemo is reduction. He was in meta tier. I kind of begrudgingly placed him in the meta tier, but he's just not. He really isn't. Baron Zemo is one of the biggest and clearest hype jobs in recent MCOC history. And my final confirmation for that on a personal level was when I took Baron Zemo to rank 4 myself, thinking that the last meta is going to be perfect for him. Did some testing. It turns out that if you purify those bleeds, you do not take the deep wounds burst damage either, so he didn't lose any health from that. On a single parry, he could root the opponent, and then he could absolutely go ham as much as he was capable. And he was still slow. And he was still like, if I had to design a perfect Battlegrounds meta for Baron Zemo, then the last one was pretty much it. He could completely shut down the healing with Despair in majority of the matchups, because he put permanent bleed debuffs on the opponents, and he basically could parry freely and increase his damage output from it. And he was still mediocre at best, to a point where I took him out of my deck after like 3 or 4 rounds where I used him. And yeah, I'm sorry. Like Baron Zemo, especially after route changes, especially after he's getting his tuning things, there's just absolutely nothing that's really worthwhile about Baron Zemo. The cool thing is, yeah, he can do some cool things in like questing situations and stuff like that, but solo content is pretty much irrelevant, and virtually, there are hundreds, 100+ champions that are good for kind of like questing content. Yeah, put on a relic on him and whatnot, but just not good enough. Just is not good enough. So who knows? Maybe I'm gonna drag him down even further because honestly, Mantis or Black Panther, I think could potentially even have more worth, in my opinion. Mysterio is a promotion, and Mysterio has been, more and more visible and more popular with his releases. 7-star, we have seen multiples of 7-star Mysterios. He's still a very good domino counter. He can do some tricky fights for battlegrounds, and in general, definitely we have seen an increase in usage of Mysterio. Some demotions further is Captain America Sam Wilson. Just we're not seeing that guy pretty much everywhere doing anything. Hulk Immortal is the demotion. No matter how much I like the champion, and I truly do. Again, he's just one more of those champions that we hardly see anywhere these days. And it's a shame. It's just, his damage mechanic and him losing health is kind of like incompatible with battlegrounds. I kind of feel like that has affected him. He was never like very popular Alliance War attacker, and at the moment, only kind of like meaningful thing for Hulk Immortal remains questing. But just as I explained with Baron Zemo, questing alone doesn't really get you that far in this game anymore because, again, there are 20+ other science champions that can do as good of a job in quests pretty much. And yeah, unfortunately, I think Hulk Immortal is not frequently useful anymore. Just useful. Cable, also one of those champions that definitely has lost ground in the game. We don't really see, well, APOC we still see here and there pop up, definitely not as much as before, but we definitely don't see Cable used all that much. And when it comes to people taking, champions to rank 5, there aren't that many people taking up APOC. There are some, but there are definitely nowhere near as many people taking Cable to rank 4 or rank 5. You just do not see the guy doing pretty much anything too much. And yeah, that being said, we still have the last point to discuss, which is Kindred. And since this is primarily offensive tier list, Kindred just isn't it. Kindred's damage output is awful. It really is. He does have cool things in his kit, like his immunities, reducing the duration of the buffs, and yeah, it's cool. It's good, but with that damage, even if he would be useful in like some situations, you just choose something else. Because why would you bother? And, it is early to judge. Maybe once he's more widely available, he's going to end up proving himself offensively, but I really, really don't think so. I think any change for Kindred higher on offensive list would only be if he gets a tune-up. And that's still going to be a while. He really isn't great. He does have, decent-ish damage if you kind of like get hit on purpose, lose a lot of health, and then basically play under like 30-40% health, but that ain't it. That just ain't it. So Kindred can stay there as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anybody's going to be missing him higher up in the tier list. Obviously, defensively speaking, there's more value than that. Defensively speaking, he looks to be a very good defender. We're going to have to see exactly how good he will perform. But offensively, nah. And those are, I think, pretty much all the changes at the moment that I can list. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. I always am open to listening to your suggestions. I know that somebody in comments last time said that I'm completely underestimating Wiccan. I personally don't think so. I think he's cool. I don't think he's meta cool. I think Chavez Longshot Diablo Clairvoyant, Juggernaut, Hood are overall better, let alone these guys. I have a 6-star rank 4 and a 7-star, and yeah, I don't think he does deserve to be higher. Spider-Man Supreme, maybe, needs to get his position back. That's definitely debatable. But yeah, definitely willing to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the changes and about champions you would place different? But before leaving all of those comments, please do remember that, we each have our own opinions, and everybody's always free to disagree. Just do it, civilly. Argument, underline your argument. Because if you're just going to tell me that, oh, rogue should be infrequently useful tier, I'm going to be like, nope. So you're going to have to tell me why do you think that champion should be higher or lower, for instance. Right. All that said, I'm going to leave a link to this spreadsheet in the video description below. And I'll catch you guys soon. Bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about